Welcome to the Be Ready podcast, a space for parent, community, and classroom educators to come, learn, and share so that children are strong academically and that they develop into successful, thriving adults. Here are your hosts, and welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to another episode of the Be Ready podcast. Ladies, what's going on? Kamilah, how you doing this week?
I am great. Looking forward to the end of the school year and summer. Excited. Yep. How you doing, Jania?
I'm excited for the summer, for the end of the school year, but I am hot. It is very hot outside, but other than that, it's okay. It's okay. How you doing, DeShawn?
I'm tired. So you mentioned hot, and today was the last game for Cam's football season. So we had the semifinals, the finals. He made it to the All-Star game. So we literally had games from 9:50 to like 2 o'clock. Baby, it was so hot. Let me tell y'all what happened to me. The glue on my tennis shoes melted. And the bottom of my shoe came off. That's how hot it was outside today. Yeah, so I'm tired and I'm hot, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay. And now you need a new pair of shoes too.
Now what?
Now you need a new pair of shoes too.
I sure do. I'm glad you brought that up. My birthday has passed, Mother Day has passed, but I think now I need a summer pair of shoes.
Yeah, you had an all-star. You had an all-star. Like that's you get a present too.
I feel that way. He got a trophy. I should get a new pair of shoes for sitting out there in that sun, because Kevin was telling me about it. Like yesterday, we were running through the schedule, and I was like, "What? 2 games? What? All-Star?" He was like, "Oh, you ain't ready to be a football mom." I might not be. It's hot.
Yeah, there's a whole list I got to get you about what you need, because you need a tent, you need a fan. There's a whole list. I will send you the list because it's hot.
Well, we did have a tent. We did do a tent today, and we did a cooler, because at the last practice and at the last game, Jackson embarrassed me because he was like staring at people's food, asking for snacks, whining, acting like I didn't feed him right before we left the house. So I'm not a parent to buy a lot of snacks. I like to do my shopping on a budget, and I'm like, you hungry? Like, eat some leftovers. You might get some string cheese and some fruit out of me, but like that's about it. But man, I brought like pretzels, I had goldfish, I had yogurt, I had string cheese. I'm like, you will not be out here having these people I don't know thinking I'll feed you.
First of all, I love that you went to a whole charcuterie spread for this 7-year-old birthday type of game happening right now. Like, that's funny.
I did. I had to cut up apples and everything, but you weren't about to show out on me. Turkey sliders, and I wasn't paying $50 for a couple of hamburgers from the food truck.
Right, that part. Don't do it.
Listen, the stuff they don't tell you, the bills they don't tell you, that's going to be a bill, baby.
Got them.
I know, but I feel like it's summertime, so like it's time for the unexpected. So it's hot. We know it. We're in Florida, but let's talk about summer. So what would be either your fondest summer memory as a child or something you're looking forward to this summer with your kids?
So mine is kind of like rolled into one. My fondest memory and something I'm looking forward to. Growing up in Jamaica, we went to the beach all the time, like all the time. Then when I came up to America and we were in South Florida, beach was like 20 minutes away. So we went all the time. Coming to Orlando, where the beach is about an hour and a half away, we make it there once a year if we're lucky. So this year, Lucas has been very vocal about wanting to do the beach more, wanting to go to the pool, wanting to be by the water. And it's something I really, really love. So I think we're going to try to do that some more. Plus, both he and Caleb love like animals. So if like we can, turn it into like a little mini marine biology session, win-win. So that's our plan.
I love that. And can y'all factor the Chapmans in when you go to the beach? Because I love the beach. Cam loves the beach. Jackson like could take it or leave it. Kevin doesn't like it at all. So I feel like you gotta go to the beach with people who like the beach.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's like I'm having fun, but you're miserable. This is awkward. So I'm just inviting myself on your beach trip.
Yeah, well, check. Don't even worry about it because we also need someone to entertain the kids so we can sit back and enjoy the beach, right? Let the kids entertain themselves, sand, water, a football. Good job.
Yes, and we know Kevin won't let them anywhere near the water because he doesn't want to have to save them. So that would be perfect.
I think we're gonna need to do a Be Ready podcast beach like trip. Because that's what I'm looking forward to. I enjoy going to the beach. I enjoy taking the little grill out there, get a little hot dog. I enjoy going to Publix before and getting all of the snacks and being like, we're those people in our like swimsuits and our cover up going through Publix and shopping like we've never eaten before.
Absolutely. We got sucked into buying the sub holders for the beach because we needed it because we don't want our subs to get wet. I don't know, but we got suckered in.
That's a true like Floridian move. Like that is. Tell me you live in Florida without telling me you live in Florida. I love that. Yeah.
That is
one of the beach guys.
That's true, and I love how you tried to turn it into a mini little a little lesson talking about marine biology at the beach. That's a true parent educator.
I try wherever I can. You don't have to do like a whole bunch of extras, but since we're there, they ask questions anyway. Let's lean into it.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like that really aligns with like the rebranding of the business and the podcast and everything. So, we used to be the Educators Collective, and then we recently changed the name. I'm sorry, we used to be Equity Learning Bridge. Thank you for the head nod, Jania. I told y'all I've been out in the sun all day and it's hot. And so I love that name because I just always studied education equity, right? Like when I say equity, I know it means every kid getting what they need in order to be successful, and wanted to create a business that was like a bridge to that, helping every kid reach their potential, starting where you are, helping you to reach your academic and life goals. But trying to explain that to people was a little bit hard, especially when they're not in education and they hear the word equity, they might not think the same thing. So shifting to the Educators Collective just really made more sense for what we're trying to do, right? Create a space for parent, classroom, and community educators to come, learn, share, grow, all of that stuff together around academics and child development. So, and then the podcast is just a product of that. So I love how you just brought it all together and brought that to my mind, because like that's parent educators. Like we're always looking for those moments, those teachable moments, as you would call them in the classroom. So it's summer and our kids are not in structured learning places anymore. So what are you all going to do to keep that parent educator piece going?
So my boys will be in summer programming Monday through Thursday, at least through June. So my husband and I will still be working a little bit in June. But what we've done in the past is on Fridays, it is some sort of like family adventure that we go on, whether we're going to the zoo, whether we're going to the beach, whether we're going to the science center, something that we're doing so that they're outside, but there's still some of that like educational piece going. And then it's a good time for us to like be together because we're always running all of the time. But trying to fill in some of those like summer field trips, and it's us like together and we're going to do these little adventures.
I love that. My kids are going to be in summer camp Monday through Friday. I still work over the summer, and Fridays is their like designated field trip day. So they'll be going like with their friends and stuff to do all kinds of cool stuff at the camp near the house. And then on the weekend, we're really going to try to make it family time. So we're going to hopefully be able to do a lot of that stuff that we talked about. The beach, definitely one. We do want to go to the zoo at some point. So again, I love that I'm also inviting myself on your trips. So be ready.
We can all be ready. Go together.
I know at one point we thought about doing Jacksonville because you can kind of do like the beach and the zoo all in one trip, and then St. Augustine if you want to, but it's all kind of up there in the same area. I'm not sure what we're going to do this summer. I know we'll do some of that stuff, but actually like logistically how I balance that with working, like I'm a little bit salty, right? Because I think I'm the only one on the call who is not going to be off on Fridays. So I feel some kind of way about that. Like it's been 9 years since I've been in the classroom, and I still have not gotten over the fact that I do not get spring break and summer off. The good thing about working in higher ed is like December is slow and we get like good Christmas holiday. So though, in talking about what we're going to do this summer, I forgot to share about my fondest summer memories, which I think too, we're just spending time with my family. I remember my sister and her husband used to like take us all to the beach and we would be there a couple of days. But I also did a lot of stuff with my mom. She would buy like these craft, like the summer craft books. And I had all these education toys and I didn't know, like I wasn't an only child, but there's such an age gap that I was kind of raised like an only child for quite a while. So like, I didn't know that I wasn't playing with fun toys when I was doing like education toys and comprehension books and all that kind of stuff. So we would like go and get like all that stuff. And then she had these other like books about like how to make Play-Doh. And so we would do all these kind of crafts and stuff like that over the summer. So that's what we did. And I hope to do some of that stuff. Cam's really into science right now. So I think we'll buy like some science kits and do that kind of stuff. So while he's, while that's his jam, I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah, I can vouch for a lot of those like science kits because Lucas got a few of them for Christmas. And he has been making snow, making Play-Doh, making all kinds of things. It's been really cool.
Yeah, I think it's important. I had lunch with a friend the other day and we were talking about, like, she has girls, but we were just talking about the importance of keeping kids in general innocent and young as long as we can. I remember when my nephew, who's now graduating college, when he was a little boy, he was doing something that I thought, I was in college and I thought whatever he was doing was like kind of like silly for his age or something. And then my sister was like, yeah, but I'm trying to keep him as innocent as long as I can, because he's a child and all the rest of the stuff, there'll be plenty of time for the other things. And so I just think that's really important.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. It's funny because when I think about like things that I did in the summer, so when you first asked that question, I was like, I don't know. I just did what like kids do. Like we were outside, like doing cartwheels in the grass or going to the beach, those kind of things. And then just when you were talking about keeping kids innocent, I definitely remember watching like MTV's like summer whatever programming and like BET's like stuff. I don't actually remember what age I was, but I probably wasn't, like, I probably should not have been watching it. Like, I don't know that my mom knew I was watching it. But that just made me think of like, oh, that's something that I used to do in the summer. It's like literally watch other people enjoy summer on MTV and BET outside of like playing in the yard and like working on my cartwheels and my back tucks and I don't know, like those things. But I don't know, that's funny. Yeah.
We're doing back tucks, friend?
Yeah. I used to pretend to be like a gymnast, like an outside like gymnast. Okay. Yeah. I used to like, so there was a girl that lived next door to me and like literally that's like, so her parents would take her to dance class and like all the things. And then she would come home and then she would teach me all the things. And we would sit in our grass and we would do all like, yeah, let me try to do it without hands and like, yeah, all the things. So it was a time. Cool. It was a time.
Here I was just being a Power Ranger the whole time.
Yeah. That's when we like went outside and stuff. Yeah, it was cute. Outside of TV. Yeah.
Sorry. That reminds me of a recent Breakfast Club episode where Felicia Rashad was on there. And she talked about how how Debbie Allen wanted to take dance lessons, but she couldn't go because whatever dance studio was nearby was segregated. So her mom like took the banister off of the stairs and put it in like their dining room or whatever. And that was like her ballet bar. And then she called somebody to come to the house and give her dance lessons. And her mom also bought them this ballet book and they would practice the different positions out of the ballet book. And that she's like, this is how Debbie Allen learned how to dance. And I'm like, That is wild.
Yeah.
To see where that has taken her.
The innovation of Black moms. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time. I also love that because I think sometimes, well, I can speak for myself. Sometimes I get caught up in like having to do some of these like grandiose things, like, oh, we got to do all of these things to make memories. I mean, it's the little things that we can do with our kids that usually end up being the most memorable and the most impactful. And that's why being a parent educator is like taking on that role and thinking about what that entails means that we are able to turn every little moment into a learning opportunity. Going to the beach and talking about, oh, is this a jellyfish? I don't know. Don't touch it, but let's look at it. Like that type of thing. So I think that's really cool. I love that. I also love them. Dance is my thing.
Yeah, I think it speaks to what we talk about in our early literacy playdates about creating a culture of education in your home and how, parents are typically responsible for, discipline and keeping kids safe and providing. But we also can present like opportunities to learn and develop curiosity and make those things like habits in our house and how important that is. Like kids don't know any different. Like if you just do those things, they'll think that's the way that life is supposed to be. And they're just going right along with it. So I think that's really important to establish that culture of education in the home.
Yeah. And then thinking about something that you mentioned, like at the beginning, right? Summer marks the end of the structured learning environment. So then as a parent educator, how can I continue that, right? Or how can I help my kids to still maintain this structure so that they're not just like out of whack in this small period of time, and then they have to readjust and do all the things when they go back to school, right? We don't want them to start from scratch. And I think that's the whole premise behind the idea of the summer slide, right? Mm-hmm. Academically, are they reverting to where they were before the summer, at the beginning of the year, when they should be, just kind of sliding through it and maintaining that same educational, I don't know, standpoint's not the right word, that same educational flow. And then the same like behaviorally, cognitively for the education, but then also emotionally, right? Our kids thrive on structure. So how can we help set them up for the most success in the classroom the next time after the summer when they go back? So that's something that's also like really heavy on my mind also, because as the cognitive load increases when they move up a grade, so do so many other things, especially emotionally when things get difficult. But are things getting difficult because they weren't given the opportunity to maintain their academic flow?
Yeah, I think like the structure piece when you said that, Kamilah, was so like it hit me, right? Because we think about like after school is out, kind of like you can sleep in till whenever you want to, you can kind of do whatever, like everything is very, very lax. And so it's funny because my children get like, oh, why do we have to? But it's so important to have those structured moments and the balance, right? And I think that's where like some of our community educators come in too, and like the community programming, those things of how do you balance the fun with still the academic piece of it, and being intentional about it. So definitely keeping the structured, knowing that at this certain time you're going to be doing this is what you're doing next, like those pieces, right? Mm-hmm. Which will help them once they get back into school and kind of acclimating back to that schedule. But then also, okay, well, right now we want to do something that has to do with STEM, but I don't want you necessarily to like sit in front of us. Like, I don't want to lecture you about science or something of that sort, but how do I give you some sort of like hands-on activity, something creative where you're still getting that skill, but you think it's fun, like it is disguised as fun. I know the director at the Boys and Girls Club, Miss Tasha, would be like, I get to do all of the fun things. But the students were learning so much that they didn't even realize it because it was fun. Like maybe you're doing something culinary, right? Where you have to measure the flour and the baking soda and count the eggs and all of those things. And then think about temperature and like, is it Fahrenheit or Celsius? All of those things. But you just think you're building, like you're making a cake, right? And you get to like throw some flour on your friend's nose or something of that sort, right? It's like, haha, this is great. But it's still like infusing all of those academic pieces and still keeping you like in this structured timeline so that when you do go back to school, like, oh, I didn't even realize I had learned about temperature while I was baking this cake because I was just having fun with my friends. Like, it's kind of a neat thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. And then the literacy part of all of that and in everything, right? Keep them reading. It doesn't have to be as structured as in a classroom with the lesson plan, but like reading a bedtime story or if I'm reading the recipe for that cake, you know, to bake, things like that are really, really important. And it's as a formerly being in the classroom, but we would see the biggest gap when we say, oh, how was your summer? What'd you do? Nothing. Watch TV all day. And it absolutely showed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. That's interesting too that you said the literacy part. So when I was younger, we used to like go on like a family vacation, right? But there was no like Google Maps or Apple Maps. And my dad is like super old school. So we would go and get like the big map and have to like read the road and the direction. And I think it's definitely helped me in like knowing kind of like how to get places and understanding north, south, east, and west. And it makes me a better driver than my husband by far. But it was also like that literacy piece that I would have never thought of until just like literally this moment of like, oh, I'm reading a map and I'm learning like geography and all of those things.
Yeah, that's
and I don't think they do that, but it's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where we would be without technology. These kids wouldn't be able to make their way out of the door.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to circle back around and really define that summer slide piece because I think no matter what age your child is, like that is a big deal. And I know so many parents who are working so hard, like, you know, doing stuff, academic stuff with their kids, taking them to tutoring, and they did all that stuff so that kids could like end the school year well and do well on the standardized tests that happen at the end of the year. And it would be like so heartbreaking to do all that work at the end of the year to make sure your child is caught up and then not do anything with them over the summer. And they will basically lose all of what big push that you had at the end, and they're starting the new year behind. So that is what the summer slide is like, sliding down or sliding back in your academic knowledge. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it's like a really big deal. I thought about another idea too. I did this with high school age kids. We read a book over the summer. And then as we were reading the book, though, the kids knew they had to put on a play at the end. And so like they did the marketing for it, you know, the graphic design, the flyers, the invitations. They also painted the backdrops for the play. We had another group of students who wrote the script, and they were doing like the lighting and the filming and all that. And so I know that was, you know, like high school age, but I think that you can do a level of that, an aspect of that with kids at any age. So I think about like our summer camp educators, like if you have kids the whole summer, is there some kind of project that they can like build upon for like this final production? Or even at home, right? If we're reading the Pete the Cat and the Science Project, can we, you know, put on like a science fair at the end of the summer and like everybody from the family brings something? So a way to kind of like tie it in. I think that also helps with picking one theme and not feeling like I gotta go to the zoo and I got to go to the beach and I have to do some math and I have to do some science, and just pick one thing and like pull different pieces out of it, like diversify. Like if your thing is the garden, then maximize the garden this summer.
I think that's a really good idea. Lucas recently was on a roll for his AR points, his accelerated reader points at school. And I guess so far he had read like 130 something thousand words. And he was like, Mommy, I'm the first in the class. Like, I want to keep going. So he created a goal for himself where by the end of the summer, he wants to read at least 500,000 words. And that is just in whatever he's reading. You don't have to take all these tests, but like we're looking at like all of these different books, all of these different opportunities for him to do like these little reading programs, like the free stuff online, going to the library, like an unmatched treasure trove of free things, especially over the summer. But that was one of the things that he said like he really wanted to do. So he's really focused on that. So I like the idea of being able to focus on one thing and like it being the culminating task and putting it all together in a fun way.
I saw a post recently about all these like reading challenges and like places that gave kids things based off of reading. So I feel like if he's already shooting for 500,000 words, he can get in on some of these programs and win some stuff along the way. I know Barnes and Nobles has one too.
Yeah. Any students that go to an OCPS public school also can use the program on their Launchpad called Beanstack. And on Beanstack, it helps them to track. They have like a little timer. They have a bunch of different books you can read digitally, or you can have your own book, and it helps them track the amount of words, the amount of books for like the Sunshine State books that students have. And it's like creates like a little what do you call it, competition amongst themselves for themselves, but also it shows like in the district or at their school who else is in this competition. So it makes it a little, a little fun.
Jania, I want to circle back to something you said about how like kids might be thinking they're making a cake, but really they're like reading, they're doing math with the measurements and all that. To talk about engagement, because I remember like being in the classroom and even in some non-traditional learning spaces, people see kids smiling and laughing or talking and they think that they are engaged. But engagement is multiple. It's cognitive engagement. So like, is the brain checked in and working and learning and being challenged? There's behavioral engagement, which I think people just take for engagement in general. Like, is the child complying with what you have, with what you're doing? Yes, they're complying, they're engaged. And that's not necessarily true. They might be complying, but their mind might be somewhere totally different because they don't even want to do what you asking them to do. And there's emotional engagement too, which I think people, it's like a catch-all. People see that kids are like smiling and like having fun doing it, so they think that they are engaged, and they might be emotionally and behaviorally, but it's not cognitively challenging. So I like the fact that you brought that in of how you're doing something fun. So that's the behavioral and emotional, but you're also learning, and that's the cognitive part. And I think that's the piece where summer camp programs can really kick in, where teachers who are planning for next year, I think that's something to investigate a little bit more and to think about, like, how am I challenging my kids mentally? Asking them to like break things apart or think critically, or, how do you feel? What would you do? What if? Like those kind of questions that we talked about in previous episodes, to make sure that we're challenging their mind. And like, I think kids low key like that kind of stuff. Like we think, oh, we don't want to bore them and make it too, like school or academic, but I think they really actually like the mental challenge.
Right. I definitely think they do. And I think it's like, for those camp counselors and community spaces to kind of like think a little bit backwards, or like do it backwards, right? Of like, what is the fun activity that we want to do? And then how do we tie in those pieces to make sure that they are cognitively engaged? I think about this too, like just the engagement piece of sometimes when we think about like family engagement, and it's like, oh, they came. Well, they came because they didn't want to get a consequence, right? They're complying because they don't want you to tell them that they're a bad student. But true engagement, like you feel it, they're able to then repeat back to you kind of what they've learned and put it in their own words, or asking for that again. So I think it's definitely a different level, compliance versus engagement. But I think we have the opportunity to work some of those things backward of like, hey, we know the fun, like we are experts in the fun, but now how are we really intentional about making that hit all of those spaces of engagement, and really making sure that our students get the value out of it. And I think kids like school until they don't like school, right? Austin is 5 and really enjoys going to school. He really likes it. My other one, some days not so much, but that is because something has happened to like break that excitement and that joy about going to school. And that's not to put blame on him or the teacher or anybody, but most kids enjoy going to school. Most kids love like learning and engaging and having fun and all of those pieces until something doesn't happen. So I think we do ourselves a disservice when we say, oh, it's the summer, kids like don't want to learn, like they don't want, but they do.
They do.
They definitely do. Yeah.
And it's just like kids crave structure, right? And so like thinking about like the engagement, and DeShawn, you mentioned like the emotional engagement, and Jania, you mentioned like sometimes like the engagement of the families or the kids, they come because they want to be compliant. But thinking in that backwards design that you mentioned, right? Thinking about what that fun thing is, involve the kids. What do they like to do? And then how can I create something based on their likes? Because if you're creating something based on something you know that they like, and you can weave in like an introduction maybe to something new, but you'll already have that investment from them, that buy-in from them, which leads to that emotional engagement, because they're like, oh, we got to pick this together, or we talked about this, and now my mom or my dad or whoever's, we're doing this together, and now they're already bought in a little bit, and then we just have to carry them the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah. So that made me think of at one of our learning centers, they were doing the where your fans at dance, like in the other room, the kids were doing that line dance, right? So we know that most of our kids like know about this, right? Like they've heard about this dance or something from their parents, right? And they're excited about it. And so then teaching our kids that, well, now we're teaching them about like sequences and math and those pieces, and really like breaking it down for them. But really, they just think that they're line dancing, right? It's just a fun piece for them. I think that's like a very small example of how to do that, but knowing what they're like into and what's trending. And I don't think that like social media is always bad, because there could be something that's trending there. And how do we like work that into being something intentional for their academic engagement? Because we know they already like this.
Yeah. And I think that buy-in is so important. It's a formula that we also know works. It's the basis of all of these videos on YouTube that put a little beat to the letters of the sounds of the letters. And now, oh, wow, now the kids are learning. They just weren't bought in before. It's the same thing with a different wrapper.
I think if I could give parents any advice, and I'm saying this because it's something I have to like, I take my own advice on this. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me, is to not get frustrated when you're trying to incorporate a learning thing with your kids and it doesn't go as planned, or they're not as engaged as you think they might be. So recently, we did an activity called Nature Journal. So we were at Fort Wilderness Lodge for my birthday. And, you know, it's my birthday, so I'm trying to like chill. I'm on these moonshine margaritas, and the kids are doing like the most, right? So we did this one activity where I brought their binoculars just because I knew we were going to be outside. So I brought their binoculars and I brought their little journals and their crayons and stuff like that. So one morning after breakfast, I'm like, let's just sit outside. And like, I hear these birds. Let's see if we can find the birds. So then they got the binoculars, like looking around. And then I'm like, okay, draw like an animal that you haven't seen before, or draw a tree or a plant or a leaf or something that you haven't seen before. So they're, hi, Austin. So like doing that. And it was really fun, and it worked on different levels. So like for my youngest, he was like looking through the binoculars and drinking his juice, and that was fine. Like that's a good stage for him. Even though I had out like the crayons and the notebook and stuff, like he scribbled a little bit, which was appropriate for his age. Then my oldest one was looking at like fallen trees and like, you know, drawing birds. Like he did kind of what I intended for the activity to be. But I just share that to say, like, I appreciate it for what it was, like 20 minutes of peace and 20 minutes of them like being outside and being creative and like, you know, just, we know that like being outside does wonders for like mood and all of that. And I was just proud of myself in that moment that I didn't try to like make my 2-year-old do the activity how I saw the activity playing out in my mind, but I just let him like do his thing. And I think that kept it fun for everybody. I even think about reading, right? Like you try to read to a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, like sometimes they're in it and sometimes you're reading and like they're gone, right? But do you stop reading? No, you can keep going. They're still hearing like the vocabulary and like all that kind of stuff. So that's something that I practice that I just wanted to put out there. Like, let kids experience it how they experience it because they're getting something out of it no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And I like that you mentioned that because like we do have to pay attention to like the age appropriateness. Doesn't mean that the activity was lost on Jaxie. It's just maybe that's how he processed it. Also, maybe he didn't need to scribble. Maybe looking through the binoculars, he saw his cool stuff and his brain was like, "Ooh, this is cool. This is cool."
Yeah.
Whereas Cameron enjoyed that piece of it. You know, it also came with like the emotional maturity of the activity. And I think that is also, I'm going to try to take your advice more on because baby, when I'm reading a book and 3 pages and Caleb flips it and I'm like, okay, I guess we're done. Are we? Then he'll bring another book and said, read it. Okay, let's go. We're reading 3 pages in again. He's flipping pages for me. And I'm like, all right, great. Here we go. It's still the reading behavior. Am I getting out all the words before he turns the page? No, but you know, it's still the reading behavior. He's hearing some of it. He's seeing the pictures and he is establishing the fact that this is what we do when we read, because by the time it's the last one, the end. Okay, great. Good reading with you.
Yeah, and it starts somewhere. Like I get a little bit cringy sometimes when I hear people not really starting to engage with their kids until they get, you know, maybe 4 or 5 or older. And even though they don't maybe do the activity how we think they should do the activity, like you can put something in their hand before they turn 1 and have them start writing, and that matters for them to even be able to do it later. So that's what I would just like encourage all of our parents who might be listening with, you know, little kids and grandbabies and all that stuff, is to like don't despise humble beginnings and like start now and like let them progress in the skill, but like introduce everything to them as early as possible.
Yeah.
So I do want to share this one resource. So we're talking about summer. So I'm going to invite y'all to join me on this journey. We went to Lakeshore Learning Store this past Saturday. So let me just put this out here too, because I know I'm not the only one that has mom guilt. So I had like a speaking engagement on Saturday and I felt bad because it was the weekend. And so I like struggle with that, like nights and weekends doing work stuff, like should I do it, should I not do it, all that kind of stuff. So I was feeling super guilty on Saturday because I had to be across town by 12:30 for this engagement. So me and Kevin took the kids to Lakeshore and I was only able to be there with them for like 10 to 15 minutes, but I still went because I was like, I just like need to have, I guess, to like soothe my guilt. But he was there and stayed longer. Anyways, so every month they have these like activities where they open up the store, they pull out some of the toys, and they like let families like come in and play. So there was a scavenger hunt. They also did painting with magnets. They made volcanoes. They made lava lamps, and those were like the 3 structured activities that were a part of the science day. But then they had maybe like 4 other stations where they opened the toys that are in the box and the kids could just play. Like some of them have to do with water and drawing and counting and science and all this stuff. So on my way out the door, I picked up this summer guide, the summer adventure guide. And so it has 6 different categories: math, language, creative arts, family fun, science, outdoor explorers. And in each category, there are 4 activities that you can do. So you choose one activity from each category, and then you take a photo or save an artifact from a completed task, and then you bring it into the store by August 30th, and then they give you a free gift. But it's like really cool. I think it's cool, like different things that they can do in each category. And there's lots of different choices. So depending on your child's age or their interest, you can pick something in each category that they would like. And they say it's skill-based activities to keep kids ages 3 to 11 learning all summer long. So I invite y'all to join us. And then, any other parents that are watching and want to join in too. And then we can kind of use our social media to document our journey in completing all the little tasks. What you think?
Yep. I think that's really cool. And for those of you guys that don't know what Lakeshore Learning is, it is the store that got all my money when I was in the classroom, right? It is just filled with learning activities, from puppets for my pre-K, reading a story and telling a puppet story, all the way up through like 6th grade, math, all the things. And it has a lot of fun games that often teachers use as like center activities, independent practice, because it's now putting into practice a lot of the things that they've taught in class. It is an awesome store. So I am 100% sure that this summer adventure guide is worth it. I will be following along with you on that one there, DeShawn. So count me in.
Yay. They also have posters. So like the alphabet posters, science posters, positive affirmations, and they're like $5. You can get them and put them up. But I'm sorry, Jania, I think you were about to say something when I started talking.
I was just going to say, let's do it. And let's see if one of those activities can be done at the beach when Be Ready goes to the beach.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. You have to figure it out now.
I feel like also we can adapt it. If they don't have it on there, we can make it work.
Yeah, we can do one.
We're parent educators. We can do anything.
Yes. Amen to that. I think that's a good way to end it. We're parent educators. We can do anything.
Oh my God.
So we'll be posting the summer fun guide. I hope some more parents join in with us. Post what you're doing. Maybe meet us at the beach. I don't know. This could be fun. So until next month, please watch, share, subscribe, like, comment, all the things. You know what to do. Bye.
Bye.